Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel Layout to Lineside. Today I'm at Kernow Model Railway Centre for their 2026 Guildford In-store event. Or rather, I was at Kernow Model Railway Centre. I actually forgot to film a video intro, so here we are on Google Maps on the street view showing Kernow Model Railway Centre. Anyway, whilst I was here, I got loads of photos and videos of all the samples that Hornby, Bachmann and Rapido were showing. So I'm going to show you all of those and say a bit about the models and how they were looking. The first manufacturer I looked at right by the door was Hornby, and the first thing which particularly caught my eye on their stand were their engineering samples, so their Railroad Class 60s, and their 3D prints of the Merchant Navies. And what can I say? These projects both look like they are coming along wonderfully. The detail on the Merchant Navy looks just next level. The detail was astounding, and this was only the 3D prints. So the detail is like this on the final release, and the qualities there, it should be a stunning model. Hornby also had a model of their unrebuilt Merchant Navy on display, and though these are fairly basic prototypes outwardly, I think Hornby have really captured the look of Bullied's original air smoothing design here. So yeah, again, this one looks very nice, I think. They also had a sample of their model of Pendennis Castle in the tour condition. It certainly looked very interesting with all the embellishments that were added when it went to America. Something a bit different, I think. Again, though, the model looks very nice. Finally, for double O gauge, they also had a sample of their sound and smoke fitted Black 5 running on the Roland Road. Again, this not only looked but also sounded brilliant, and the synchronization between the smoke and the sound systems is on time perfectly. They were also showing off a lot of TT120 samples, including a Class 37 in EWS livery, and, more notably, a sample for their upcoming Coalfield Freight train pack. And for £180 on RRP, you get the locomotive and all 3 wagons. And bearing in mind you get a discount at the retailers, I do think the value for money here is brilliant, and the models look amazing. Another noticeable presence in their TT scale lineup were the engineering samples for their upcoming Class 30s and 31s. Again, these looked brilliant. The detail level on them looks great. Finally, they also had some engineering samples for some of their upcoming TT120 wagons on display. Again, these looked brilliant. There were a number of other samples in TT on display, but due to the sheer volume of samples on display at this event, I am just focusing on the models which haven't come out yet, so engineering samples, decorated samples, and models which they had running. So with that, let's move on to the next manufacturer, which was Bachmann. So one of the main things that Bachmann had on display, which I was drawn to, were the decorated samples of their 8Fs. Well, I say samples. They only had one on display, but this looks brilliant. I remember when these were announced, I was really excited. And yeah, these models look brilliant, and it is so good to see them fully painted. So again, hopefully these will be coming out very soon. Bachmann also had a sample for what I believe is their Class 170 on display. This was an engineering sample, and again, it looks very nicely detailed. Personally, I don't know very much about these, as I'm more into the earlier transition era models, but yeah, this looked very nice, and I could see this model being very popular with some people. Another sample on display was Bachmann's upcoming Jubilee class. So obviously this is not an all new tooled model. This is obviously they are reusing some of the old tools from their previous release, which I believe was in the 2000s at some point, although I'm not sure on that one. However, it still looks decent, and I'm sure it will be a good model since they are making many upgrades to it. Moving on, in the N-gauge Graham Farris range, they were displaying a number of samples, including their upcoming Class 20s, and these were decorated samples, and again, they just look wonderful. Obviously, I don't model N-gauge, but if I did, I could see these being quite an exciting model, and I know they will be a brilliant addition to a lot of people's collections. So yeah, again, very nice looking model. Finally, they were also displaying decorated samples for the upcoming EFE Rail Baby Deltic in N-gauge as well. So they had an engineering sample here and a couple of decorated body shells. These do look wonderful. Quite an obscure prototype, but yeah, it looks very nice, and the resemblance to the full-size Deltics is certainly very clear here. And with that, I actually decided that I'm going to make this a two-parter because there were so many samples at the event. But before I go, there is one thing I'd like to show. So, this event actually happened over a month ago, and when it did, everyone was still talking about the Helgen Akira scale drama, and because of this, Kernow was trying to shift all their unsold Helgen stock. So, they had a 50% off all Helgen deal, so I bought this. So this is a Helgen AEC railcar. The RRP for these, it used to be around £200, I think a bit more. I paid £80 for mine. So, yeah, if you're ever in the area when one of these Kernow Model Railway Centre in-store events is on, it's definitely worth checking them out, because I got this fit. It's hard to open a box with one hand. I couldn't find the piece to fix my GoPro to the tripod. But anyway, right. Yeah. So I have had this out of the box before. It's been over a month since the event actually happened. But as you can see, it's upside down. As you can see, it is a very nice model. Not worth the £200 they originally asked for it, but I picked mine up for £80, and for that price, I could not be happy with it. But anyway, I've yapped on, I think, for too long about this, so I'll see you next time for part 2 of this mini-series. So, bye.